I know many of you out there are super excited about being able to travel maskless once again, at least here in the United States. But there are some downsides to losing those masks, and that is you become a lot more vulnerable to catching those germs and viruses that are roaming around in the airplanes and in the airports. I think you can agree with me that there are few things worse than getting sick while you are on vacation, especially if it's something that you've been planning and looking forward to for several months, or maybe at this point for a few years. So today I'm going to share with you 14 tips for not getting sick while you are traveling. Let's go. Hey y'all, and welcome. If you're new here, I'm Christy, the Gen X Gypsy, helping you to travel better so you can focus on creating unforgettable memories. Y'all, I did 2 videos way back at the beginning of my channel about how to prep for healthy travel and how to not get sick while you are traveling. And although both videos are filled with great information, even I found them painful to go back and watch. So I decided to take both of those videos and the information in them and condense them down into one video, which I'm doing today. Given that masks have once again become optional for travel in the US, I thought it was a great time to remind everyone how to continue to stay healthy while traveling, whether you choose to wear a mask or not. And remember, my friends, it is an individual choice as to whether you want to travel with a mask or not. So please be respectful and kind to one another out there. I have divided the video up into 2 sections, and in the first section I'll go over everything I do the 7 to 10 days before I leave for the trip to keep myself healthy. And then in the second section I'll go over everything that I do on the day of travel to help from catching those cooties. The first thing I do about 7 to 10 days before I leave for a trip is I start to take emergency every morning. I'll just mix it in a glass of water and I kind of take it like a morning shot. And that just gives me more vitamin C and zinc to help build up my immune system. In about the same time frame, I'll start drinking 1 to 2 cups of this traditional medicinals echinacea tea with some raw unprocessed honey in it. It helps build the immunity, but the raw unprocessed honey has microbial properties to it, which also helps kill off any germs you already have in your system, in addition to also being another immunity builder. Tip number 3 is something that I do all the time, so I don't actually start doing it right before a trip, and that is to take a probiotic. If you're not already taking a probiotic, I would encourage you to start taking one before your trip, because not all of the viruses that are floating around out there are just head cold viruses. Some of them can affect your stomach too. Not to mention, our stomachs can be kind of finicky when we travel. You know, we're eating different foods and we're drinking water from different areas. So the stronger that you can make your gut health, the better off you're going to be while you are traveling. Another way to build that healthy gut is to eat some yogurt every day in that 7 to 10 day period before you leave for your trip. Now, this is something I'm working towards doing because I'm not a big fan of yogurt. It's a texture thing for me. I just feels like it's runny. But when I do mix it with some nuts and some blueberries, and because I get low sugar yogurt, I'll throw in some of that raw unprocessed honey. And now I've got me a healthy little dessert. Tip number 5, avoid drinking alcohol for the week to 2 weeks before you leave on your trip. As we all know by now, alcohol is a great dehydrator, and nothing attracts a virus into your body faster than dehydration. And not drinking for a couple of weeks just builds my anticipation for that first vacation cocktail. Tip number 6 is one that I think we all find a little challenging at our age as women, and that is to get really good sleep. If you can do whatever you can do in order to get good sleep for that week to 2 weeks before you leave on vacation, it will do wonders for building up your immunity. And, also give you some energy to have a really good time on your vacation. Tip number 7 is to drink lots of water. I know every video tells you to drink lots of water, but it is important because, like I just said, dehydration makes you super susceptible to getting sick. An easy way to get some water into your body on a daily basis is to take a bottle like this or a glass that holds like 16 ounces of water and drink that before you have your beverage of choice in the morning. For me, it's my cup of coffee. So I always drink a bottle like this before I have my cup of coffee. And you know what else is easy? Clicking that like button if you're enjoying this video. And if you know someone who needs to hear this information or would enjoy this information, please feel free to share. I also want to take a moment to clarify that I am not a medical professional, and all of the tips and advice that I'm sharing today are things that I've learned through experience or from doing my own research. But that being said, I do encourage you to ask me questions about these tips, or if you have other travel questions, in the comments below. Or if you're more comfortable, feel free to DM me over at Instagram. Now, if you ask the question in the comments below, not only can I help you, but you can also probably get some pretty good answers from the community. Now we're moving on to the tips that you should follow on the days that you travel. And I would suggest that you don't just follow these tips on the day you're traveling to your destination, but also on the day that you return home. Because you don't want to get sick after you get home from vacation either, do you? Tip number 8, use your Clorox wipes profusely. When you get to the airport and you're sitting in a seat to wait to board the plane, wipe down the armrest and maybe the headrest or anything that maybe bare skin might be touching. And then when you take those wipes onto the plane, when you get to your seat, wipe the headrest down, wipe the armrest down, wipe your seatbelt down, wipe the seat in front of you, wipe the tray table. Basically, anything you are going to be touched or having your face near, wipe them down with those Clorox wipes. At least these days, people don't look at you like you're crazy when you do that, because I used to do that pre-pandemic and I got some pretty funny looks. Tip number 9 is a tip that I learned about and used on our trip to Hawaii in February of 2020. And yes, we were in Hawaii when the world shut down. So I used this tip on the way there and on the way back, which was before masks had become mandatory on the airplanes. That is to use a Q-tip that you have some sort of antibiotic cream on. I use Neosporin, but you can take the Neosporin with you on the plane. It is a liquid, so it will need to be in your liquids bag if you're going to carry the whole tube with you onto the plane, and then just bring some Q-tips and take a little bit and squeeze it on the Q-tip and run it on the inside of your nose, both nostrils all the way around. And what this does is not only does the antibiotic cream kill any viruses that you might be breathing in, but it also helps to keep your nose moist, because once again, if your nose becomes dehydrated, it gives the virus a place to embed in your system, and then, it starts to breed. And we don't want that. So another way that you can do this, if you don't want to carry the full, little tube of Neosporin or whatever, is you could do some Q-tips with the Neosporin on it and then put them all in a plastic baggie and then bring that with you. The only problem with that is it might get a little messy and you might not get as much Neosporin to put inside your nose. But it is an option if you don't have room in your liquids bag or you don't want to have to bring a liquids bag onto the plane with you. Tip number 10. Another place on your body that gets super dry when you are traveling are your eyes. And it's, obviously another place that the viruses can breed. So it's important to bring some hydrating eye drops with you when you are flying. Now, I have these Lumify eye drops that I love for keeping my eyes white, like getting rid of the red. Do you guys have that issue as you've gotten older? Do you feel like your eyes get more red? I feel like mine are red all the time. So I use these Lumify drops to get rid of the red, but they're not super lubricating. So the ones that I actually take on the plane to keep my eyes lubricated are these Systane hydrating eye drops, and these things are great. It feels a little weird when you first put it in because they're so lubricating. It almost feels like you've got oil in your eyes, but they work really, really well. So I'll have those linked below if you want to check those out from Amazon. But bring your eye drops. Just remember, eye drops are liquids, so they do need to go in your liquids bag. Tip number 11, book a window seat. The National Academy of Science actually did a big research project to figure out where the best place on the plane is to sit so you don't get sick. And they did find that the window seat, you are 20% less likely to get sick when you are sitting there. So if your bladder and your legs can handle it, book a window seat. Tip number 12, wash and sanitize your hands. I feel like I shouldn't have to tell you guys this, but I've been in some public restrooms lately that I don't feel like people are really washing their hands like they should be. We were inundated with that information at the beginning of the pandemic about how to wash your hands and for how long, and I feel like the mask, it's kind of dropped off a little bit. When you are traveling, and again, there's all those germs in the contained area, you need to be washing and sanitizing your hands, especially when you use the lavatory in the airplane itself. They aren't very clean. I mean, they're cleaning them, but they're still not very clean. So make sure you try to wash your hands in that little tiny sink as best you can. But when you get back to your seat, give yourself a nice big dollop of hand sanitizer and use it. I have not always been a fan of hand sanitizer because I believe that there are good bacteria that we need to still have in this world. But when you're traveling and you don't want to get sick, use the hand sanitizer. Tip number 13, bring some of those echinacea tea bags with you on your travels. The flight attendants always have hot water available, and they will be happy to give you some so that you can steep your own tea. And it will continue to build up your immunity. Not to mention, it's a lot less dehydrating than soda, coffee, or maybe a glass of wine you might have while you're flying. And that leads us to our last tip, tip number 14, which is to keep on hydrating. I know, I've hammered this home throughout the entire video, but not only can dehydration lead to a super nasty cold, but it can also cause a super uncomfortable phenomenon called jet belly. What is jet belly, you ask? Well, you can find out all about it in this video next. Thanks you guys so much for watching, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video.